Good evening and welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. My name is Larry Abels and I get the pleasure of hosting tonight. And let me introduce our panel. So first of all, I'm going to introduce one friend of the show and we're glad to have him on. Greg Finner, how are you, Greg?
I'm excellent. And if I was any better, my last name would be Snowden.
And another friend of the show and, participant all the time, Andrew Stevens, very knowledgeable guy. How you doing, Andrew?
Hey, I'm doing great. And if I was any better, my last name would be Finner. Okay.
And my longtime buddy from the neighborhood, also known as Charles Snowden III's dad, Chuck Snowden. How you doing, Chuck?
Hey, Larry, I'm doing great. And I'll tell you something, if I was doing any better, my last name would be Abels.
There we go.
Oh, wow. Well, I couldn't be doing any better because I'm with you three guys. So, hey, let's get started here. Okay, we're going to start with Washington and Dallas. All of us are from the DMV. Andrew, what went wrong for Washington?
I think for the last few weeks, our offense has not been performing, and there are multiple factors. I think the number one factor is just pure execution. I think our line's been a little beat up. I think the teams looking at the tapes, what we did over our first 5, 6, or 7 weeks, has sort of given them some clues about our tendencies. I don't think Cliff has called great games, especially the last 2 games, and I think he's gotten a little predictable. So I mean, there's a number of things. I mean, and even our running backs are a little beat up. And Jaden even looked a little gimpy for a couple games there. So besides, Sunday's game is one thing. We could talk all about it, and maybe that's what we should only talk about. But there's been a trend towards offensive execution that has not been good, and it's mostly execution, not hitting our players in stride, not running tight routes, things like that. But overall, it's not great play calling. A couple injuries. We're getting a little injured. We don't have depth, things like that. And we're showing that we just, there's a reason we were 4-13 last year. It's hard to change all that in 1 year, but I'm still optimistic. We still have a very good chance to make the playoffs. And I think overall this has been a much better year than anticipated, but we're in a rough stretch, which all good teams go through. So,
okay. That's a lot to swallow. Greg, what do you think went wrong Sunday?
Okay, so this is coming from a longtime Redskins Commanders fan. Since the day I knew what a football was. I remember when Otto Graham was the coach. Now I'm really dating myself, right? Okay. The kicker was a disaster. The DBs give up too many big plays. Special teams were horrible. Cliff Kingsbury is becoming more predictable than Dracula. And he makes no adjustments. All right. Other than that, Miss Lincoln, it was a pretty good play. It was a pretty good play other than that. I got to tell you, one thing I learned just watching the NFL close up for 20 years, I mean, really close up. These defensive coordinators, you can have the best offense, great plays. Give those guys a few weeks, a pot of coffee and a pack of cigarettes, and they'll figure you out.
Yep.
They will figure you out. And if you don't make some changes, that's one of the reasons I think Andy Reid is one of the criminal masterminds of offensive football in NFL. He always comes up with something in the red zone. They come up, I know we'll get to this, but they come up with plays. They're like, what was that? Now, having Patrick Mahomes helps.
I was about to mention that.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. You can't do that with any old QB.
Sam Howell.
Right, the Commanders have got to make more adjustments. In the days of Joe Gibbs, I will tell you, everybody remembers they would go in at halftime and come out. Man, they would be like, what happened? What did they do? They make adjustments. Those guys were really smart. And I'm telling you, in Joe Gibbs' day, if that kicker misses 2 extra points and a field goal, he'd be in a passenger waiting area in Dulles Airport so fast it would make his head spin. Oh,
okay, but let's stick with this week. So, essentially, everything went wrong. Chuck, both of these guys sounded like it's a complete disaster. What's your spin on this game?
I think both of them hit a theme that I wanted to talk about, and that is Kingsbury. Look, they haven't taken shots down the field. They just refused to do it until they had to do it. When they That score was 10-9 with 9 minutes to go, and he hadn't taken any shots to the receiver. Our guy, number 17, he didn't even put him in the game until they had to, and they looked pretty good once that happened. He didn't look injured. He didn't look like he couldn't throw it, all of those things. So I think that we just have to we got to open up that playbook and let's take some shots. And I think that if I had to narrow it, because all the things that Greg and Andrew mentioned are absolutely right, but if I had to melt it down to one thing, we got to take more shots downfield. We just got to we can't just settle for field goals.
I couldn't agree with you more. Succinctly put, offense didn't, and I guess it gets back to Kingsbury. He's not adjusting anything. All they were was 2-yard dinks. You got to throw the ball downfield. He didn't do it against Philadelphia. Also didn't do it opening day against Tampa Bay. Same thing. They lost all 3 games.
Can I say one more thing, Larry?
Sure.
I should have known when we had to beat the Bears with a Hail Mary that we were headed for a potential skid. I mean, that was like a kind of a dead giveaway. We really should have beat them really much worse than we did.
Well, while we're talking about that, are the Commanders going to make the playoffs? And Greg, we'll start with you. Are they really a playoff-bound team?
I think they can. If they do the things that we talked about with the adjustments, they can. They can be a wild card team. They will not win the NFC East. The Eagles are these boys that found their stride. They are hot.
Okay,
Saquon Barkley, we'll get to him, but
focus on the question. Focus on the question. I'm putting you on the spot. Will they make the playoffs?
Yes, as a wild card.
Okay.
Yes. I will say yes.
What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think they will too. No, I do. I think teams go through these droughts. I think we're all worried about Kingsbury's ability to adjust, no question. I think he does have the capability to do that. I'm not sure why he has not zigged when everyone zagged towards him, but I think he can, and I think he will. I think our schedule is not impossible. I mean, we're going to play Tennessee this week and then a bye, and then New Orleans Saints, who are not a very good team. So we've got some winnable games and then some division games with the Eagles and Cowboys and such. So I think things are lining up. If we can get this straightened out a little bit, we have a real good shot.
Hey, Kung Fu, thanks for chiming in. It's always good to hear from him. He thinks they got to win out. If that's the case, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
We don't need to be 12-5. We don't need to be 12-5.
Chuck, what do you think?
I think we're going to be 10-7, and I think 10-7 will get us in. So first of all, before I go much further, thanks for joining us, Kung Fu. Hey, Sharice. Thanks everybody for checking in on here it is Thanksgiving Eve, and they're paying attention to us, which we really super appreciate that. So thanks again. I think they will. I think they'll win 10-7. Andrew touched on something. We play the Titans, then New Orleans, and then later on we got at Dallas. And I think we're going to win those 3. We might not beat Philly in Philly. We might have a hard time with Philly here at home. And then we finish up and we have the Falcons in the middle of that too. So I think we're going to win 3 of those 5. That'll put us to 10-7, and I think we'll make the playoffs.
Sharice is in the same boat with Greg. She's thinking about Joe Gibbs and what would happen to the kicker. We need a new kicker.
Thank you, Sharice.
The thing is, though, one of those PATs, I don't know if it was the kicker or the holder or the guy who hiked the ball. I think all of them seemed
Every
time
hike and hold for sure, but yeah.
Yeah, he missed a field goal too, so I don't know.
Remember now, the special teams gave up a touchdown too on that spinorama, and we blocked a punt. We blocked
a punt and an extra and a field goal.
And a field goal. And
the offense could not take advantage of those things.
The special teams gave up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter because one of those guys on the onside kick picked it up and ran it for a touchdown.
Yeah.
That was 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
10-9 with 9 minutes to go. The final score was 34-26 or something crazy like that. It was a hell of
I hope the special teams coach, his home is a rental property and not. I hope he didn't buy here.
Yeah.
I hope it's a rental.
I think the special teams coach. I think it's Larry Izzo, who's been in the league for a long time. He's thought of us very highly in that. It was a bad. I mean, there were some highs, there were some good things special teams did, but a lot of bad. And everyone's allowed to have a bad day, but not a lot of bad days.
So I'm going to take a little small disagreement with Greg. I hate to do that because I know Greg knows this stuff. I don't know if our DBs are as bad as everyone says. And in fact, I like the kid from Michigan, the rookie guy. I like him a lot.
Like,
Sandra still.
I almost think we should focus more on our wide receivers. We need some more wide receivers. I think that's our weakness, if you will. But
Well, Chuck, to that point, did the defense really play that poorly Sunday?
I love this guy Luvu or whoever that he has really
is a
grown
beast.
on me. He has really grown on
Yeah.
me.
Larry, I'd like to say something about that too, because I think Joe Witt has coached this defense up. We started very poorly on defense. We don't have a lot of talent. We have to admit that, right?
I agree.
And I think if Marshawn Lattimore is really healthy, he can do he can add a major plus to our DBs. Yes, I mean Benjamin St-Juste, he's in the right place a lot of times, but he doesn't turn around the right time. He doesn't play the ball the right way, and they still get big completions on him all the time. And we're not if Lattimore is healthy this week and he practiced today, that could be enormously big. But I want to give Joe Witt a lot of credit because I don't think he's got a lot to work with. I don't think we have much depth, and I think he's coached these guys up in a big way. And I think we could have been better against the run on Sunday because Dallas does not have a good running attack. There's some things that weren't perfect, but overall, that game was not lost on defense for sure.
A linebacker is on his fantasy. What? His linebacker is on his fantasy.
There's some fantasy. I'm in a league where they have defensive players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that given what the way the defensive backs play, and I have to be careful what I say because I have some real, intimate connections.
They might be watching.
Trust me when I tell you, they are not good. And given the way the defensive backs play, we do need to do more blitzing. We need to do more stunting. We need to get more creative on defense because those guys.
But Greg, what about Sunday? Did they play that poorly Sunday? I know you're talking about
their coverage they had blown coverage at least 3 times that I could see. Blown coverage.
Yeah.
Who leads that team in sacks? They don't put no pressure really on the quarterback.
They don't.
That's unfair to the defense.
I mean, like Chuck said, it was 10-9, like into the fourth quarter. Dallas scored twice on special teams.
Yeah.
I thought they hung in there. I thought if the offense could have had some more time of possession, they win the game. And of course, get into the end zone a little bit.
Yeah.
Once in a while. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on. We'll get past this, and let's hope that one thing I want to caution all you guys, we talk about these winnable games. I'm thinking other teams are looking at Washington like that's a winnable game too.
They are now.
Agree. Totally agree.
And the Cowboys and the Eagles. So I think they have to play well. I hear all of you saying we. They're not giving me a check, so I'm not going to say that. They've got to play better. Okay.
That was a blown opportunity though on Sunday. We should have.
They were 10.5-point favorites. 10.5 points. Yeah. They don't give 10.5 points loosely.
Not in the NFL.
Now, so let's before we move on, was that and not even with the benefit of hindsight, how did you feel about that going into that game? Chuck, did you think that was a reasonable point spread?
Well,
10.5 points.
I thought Dallas was weak, man. I really did. And then Cooper Rush was quarterbacking, and it was a big game for us. I guess that is a lot in retrospect, but I didn't think about that. I thought we were going to win by 13 or more. I did.
What did you think, Andrew?
I mean, I thought we would win, but I didn't feel that good about it just because we haven't been playing that well. And I mean, somehow Dallas, sometimes they bring their benches and stuff and kind of they're not very intimidated by us, and they were not intimidated by us on Sunday. They were here to win, and they thought they could, and they did. So I give them credit; they were the better team. But we will have answers later. We're going to come back.
That Charisse is pretty knowledgeable, isn't she, Larry?
Absolutely. Greg, did you think 10.5 points was generous?
I thought it was. I thought it was generous. Here's where I would disagree. Only with the line, just because the Eagles and the Steelers took a lot of steam out of the Commanders. If they had played the Cowboys before the Eagles and the Steelers, I think it would have been a good line. But the Steelers, I can only name like a couple of players on that team, but boy, they bring the heat. They bring it, man. And they took a lot out of the Commanders, and so did the Eagles. But no, I thought that line was a little too generous. Not for.
That's a lot of points for a pro team, you know. And normally, some of the things that Chuck mentioned about Dallas is playing with their second string quarterback, that normally gets you there, but that's when you really have a juggernaut. Washington hasn't displayed that for quite a few weeks lately. So I don't know. I thought it was too much. I thought it should have been about 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
even though apparently 6 would have been too much this week. Speaking of the Eagles beat the Rams. How do we feel about Philadelphia? With beating the Rams and the Commanders, were those quality wins? Has Philadelphia really beaten anybody? Or really, how good are they? And Andrew, we'll start with you.
I mean, there's no question Philadelphia has a lot more talent than, say, like raw talent, especially at the skill positions. They got great receivers. They got a great running back. They have not a great quarterback, but a quality quarterback, a capable quarterback. And Jalen Carter and some of their young defensive players they've drafted in recent years. They got these 2 young DBs, rookies, but they just are flying all over the place. They're coming together. I think last year they had basically the same talent, but there was internal turmoil, and I think it looks like they've gotten that straightened out. And if that talent rises to their capabilities, they're going to be hard to beat. They're going to be a real challenge for the Lions and a different class than the Commanders.
Okay. Greg, are you sold on them?
I am. I think they're incredibly physical. The one thing that I think the Eagles, I think their biggest challenge is they have these periods of inconsistency where they go dormant, and that hurts them. But they are physical. Their offense is super potent. They have their offensive coordinator must have gone to offensive coordinator school with our offensive coordinator because they get so predictable. And when you have a weapon like Saquon Barkley, man, the sky should be the limit. And I still don't think they give him the ball enough, but I'm sold on them. I think they'll win the NFC East. Yeah.
Greg, you got 255 yards overnight.
Well, so I'm sure, I don't know who else saw this, but they asked him if he wanted to come out of the game and get this record or let the young kids eat. It was one of the classiest things I've ever seen. He said, no, let the young kids eat. Let them play. Don't worry about the record. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, man, I love this dude. What a classy man.
Chuck, are you sold on the Eagles?
I'm very sold on them. And I'm sold on them because it seems like about 3 or 4 weeks ago, they started to giving the ball more and more to Saquon. And Saquon every week has gotten better and better and better. They've gotten healthier. That big defensive tackle they've got from Georgia is getting nastier and nastier. And I like Andrew mentioned, I just think they got a lot of talent. My only thing about them up until now, I just wasn't sold on their head coach. I'm not their head coach I'm not a fan of him, but they got talent. And their general manager is who is assembling this talent. And I think they're as talented, if not more talented, than anybody in the NFC.
You know, Detroit is in the NFC. How do you think they measure up against them?
I think they're as talented as Detroit. I do.
Okay, that's pretty good. Greg, what do you think about them against Detroit?
I think Detroit. I take Detroit by 3. It'll be a great game. It won't be a Commanders Cowboys game. It'll be a great game, but I would take the Lions by 3.
Andrew?
Yeah, the Lions are right now a better overall team, but I attribute that mostly to culture. Their culture is so tight and so good. I think the talent's pretty comparable.
They're both on one about like 7 in a row, so they're looking good. They're looking like the matchup.
The Lions aren't just winning; they're winning by a lot every week. They're just destroying teams.
But I'll tell you something: if Saquon pulls a toenail,
right?
I mean they're done. I mean,
even though Gainwell has a great name for a running back, does he not?
Yeah, he does. A little quick, a little fast guy.
Oh,
that's how I used to feel about Mike Quick when he played for him.
Yeah, good name, good football name.
I got lots of Mike Quick stories. Yeah. He was way nasty. He was way better than most people understand. That dude was something special.
Okay, we had another marquee matchup on I guess it was it Monday? Harbaugh brothers played each other. I don't know whether Sunday or Monday night. It's running all together for me. I had jury duty this week, so I'm a little off. Chargers and Rams. The Ravens and Chargers. I'm sorry. Greg, your thoughts on that game?
Big brother has got little brother's number. He can't beat him. He's 3-0 against him. He cannot beat him. And this is just my brother. I got people that can't beat me in golf. It's not because they're not better, but I can get in their heads. And I don't think that John is necessarily a better coach than Jim, because Jim, they all win everywhere they go. But man, he's in his head. He can't seem to get past it.
What do you think, Chuck?
I think he has a guy named Henry and a guy named Lamar Jackson on his team, and his little brother don't have those two people. So I think like I feel the same about Detroit and Philly. I just think the Ravens are loaded. And it's a shame that they sometimes don't play up to their talent. But boy, when they say we're going to play good today, I mean, they after two bad wins or two bad losses, or anyway, a bad loss, they flew 3,000 miles to take on a hot Chargers team and handled them well.
Andrew, your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I think they're maybe comparable teams. I think the John Harbaugh in Baltimore, he's just been there a lot longer. His program is well established. His culture is solid. And Jim Harbaugh is, even though he's a great coach and he'll build a machine there, it's his first year. And not everyone understands necessarily what they want, their coach is really wanting. You just can't do it all. Again, you can't do it all in half a season. And I think that was the real advantage that the Ravens had over the Chargers.
You got to go get some receivers. The Chargers, they don't have it. They just need to get receivers in the offseason.
I know. They had some good ones, but they were aging and they decided to not play. So.
Yeah, I thought their quarterback played pretty well, but Baltimore has a formula that if they think about it, like give Henry the ball, let him get up 20 or more carries. They can usually win games. Every game they've lost, for some reason, they've gotten cute and stopped giving them the ball.
It makes no sense, actually. And I know this is just our talk show, but I mean, how could they not know that themselves? I don't understand that.
We know that we're not even getting paid. Isn't there something?
Wait, you're not getting paid for this? I am.
Really? I got my check.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I'm getting commissions even.
Final question on the Ravens. Should they be taken as a serious threat to win the AFC? Chuck, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Andrew.
Yeah, clearly. Like we all said, that on offense, they're stacked. They got a formula. Like you said, defense has been iffy, but they can put it together at the right time. Doesn't matter who's the best team at week 11 or 12. It matters in the playoffs, week 18, 19, 20, whatever. That's when it matters. I think they have every possibility of putting it together at the right time.
Greg?
Yes, but they are in the toughest division in pro football, and Cleveland can be just stinking up America. When they come to town, something happens. And so, yeah, they will absolutely challenge for the AFC title. They are phenomenal, but I'm telling you, they're up against some real physical division opponents that some of these other folks, like Kansas City, I mean, they're going to backpedal into their division title. But the Ravens, man, they got a tough go of it.
Kansas City's is leaking oil, though. They're leaking oil right now.
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah, and by the way, Sunday there's going to be a Ravens-Eagles match that I think will tell us all a lot.
Well, I was gonna throw that as a bonus question. Who's gonna win that game, Andrew?
I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think the Eagles are on fire. I think they've got some mojo, and I think one of the things we people are looking at that game is some sort of referendum on who will be the MVP. Because the two leading candidates right now, I think, are Saquon and Lamar Jackson. And I think the Eagles, like we've talked, they can feed him more. And I think they're going to feed him hard and heavy. And I think he's going to have a monster game because Baltimore's defense has not been what they usually are. And I think the Eagles are going to win. And I think this is going to pave the way for Saquon's MVP candidacy victory.
Greg, who do you think is going to win?
Eagles. I take the Eagles. Absolutely.
Wow. Chuck, who do you think is going to win?
Blackbirds. I'm taking the Blackbirds. Where is that game?
Not sure.
Yeah,
I know. I'm not 100% sure. I know I saw a clip where it said Philadelphia doesn't have to travel far the rest of this year, but that still could be because they play ball. Yeah.
What is that? About 60 miles between those two stadiums because they're right there.
It's about 90. It's about 90.
Very similar cities.
Yeah.
Very
And
similar.
they're right, and both those stadiums are right there on 95, right on the same road.
It's
a
in
Commander
Baltimore.
Stadium.
It's in Baltimore.
Oh,
Baltimore.
it's in Baltimore.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the Ravens.
You were taking the Ravens anyway,
It
right?
didn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still taking the Eagles.
Get you guys' thoughts on something. The New York Giants cut their quarterback with 7 games left in the season. Andrew, what impact does that have on the rest of the team when? And they also wasn't publicized as much. They got rid of one of their top cornerbacks for money reasons too. You think that
Xavier
impact?
McKinney? You're talking about Xavier McKinney
Yeah.
in the offseason? Yeah, he's having a great year in Green Bay. So the Saquon was not the only free agent mistake they made. Xavier McKinney was also a big mistake. But in terms of Daniel Jones, I mean, and this is where the legalese of these contracts gets in the way of good football and like team building, because it isn't great for the culture. Because even though Daniel Jones is having a bad year and has no future in New York, he's probably still the best quarterback on that roster. And it's unfortunate because if he were to get injured, his contract guarantees would kick in that are bad long-term for the team. So they want to take that chance. And so everyone decided that you can just leave now. Goodbye. Thank you. But it's a little sad, but maybe things will work out for Daniel Jones. Maybe they won't, but I do regret or have some remorse just about the way contracts are written and the ways that they can actually end up hurting players, even when they're supposed to protect players.
Well, I mean, they only really guaranteed the first 2 years, and after that, they could have let him go.
But if he got injured this year,
if he's hurt and out for the season, they would have to pay him $25 million if he got hurt in a season-ending injury. But 7 games left. Greg, what do you think? What message does it send to the rest of the people in the locker room?
Okay, so let me back up a little bit with the Giants. First of all, saying he's the best quarterback on the roster is like saying he's the tallest midget. Okay.
There's some bad quarterbacks over there. Man.
Okay.
I think he probably is the best quarterback, their best chance to win, even though it might be slim.
I mean, he's right. I mean,
He's the best one on that roster, but that roster that's a very low bar.
Good.
So I watched Hard Knocks offseason with the Giants, and the GM Shane, to say he was clueless would be giving him a compliment.
He's not look good.
He and Mara, and I know John Mara is probably like ready to pull his hair out right now. He was already losing sleep at the thought of losing Saquon Barkley. They chose Daniel Jones over Barkley. That's the pony they backed. And it was a colossal mistake because anybody could see the last few years. First of all, I don't even know how Daniel Jones got the big contract that he had. I don't even know how he got that. I mean, maybe league collective bargaining, whatever he had to, it was just, he was, grandfather into it. I don't know, but he shouldn't have gotten that. So to get at this point and say, this guy is so bad, we're worried that if he gets hurt, we got to give him $25 million. That's bad. And so for the Giants organization, I don't blame Daniel Jones as much as I blame the GM and the organization. They made a horrible choice. And so you got to fish or cut bait. They decided to cut bait. It was so, from a business.
My question is though, how does that impact the rest of the players there?
I don't know, but my guess would be half of them are saying, "What took you so long?" The other half is saying, "I got to get out of here," because these guys don't know what they're doing. I don't think it's good for the team morale and culture at all.
That's what I was getting at, Chuck. What do you think? How do you think of the impact?
Can you in the truck? Can you bring up my comments from September of 2022 when I said that was a dumbass move and the fellas argued against me? Look, I said then that was ridiculous that they were signing Daniel Jones for $40 million. 160. So I'm not feeling sorry for Daniel Jones because he's made $80 million off of just this contract. He made money off. He was a first-round pick. So he made money off the first contract too. So I am not feeling sorry for Daniel Jones whatsoever. And for them to let Saquon Barkley go, now people tell me that the collective bargaining agreement that they agreed to, who somehow partitions running backs and receivers and so forth. And so I don't know, but there's no way, and I argued this point, that Saquon Barkley was less valuable than Daniel Jones, and he should be the guy that gets the money. But how does that look now?
But what I'm getting at, okay, nobody's arguing. They chose to get him. That's the deal they made. I'm talking about the impact on the team.
Can't get inside the head of the player.
Let me finish. What if the player decided, I'm not going to play anymore because I don't want to get hurt and I don't want to risk an injury at the middle of the season? Don't you think that would impact the locker room? And really what I'm getting at is, if you're playing on that team, it's like they're pulling the rug out from under him. And really, they don't really, do the Giants even think they can win this year? And that's really what I'm wondering. What are they doing going forward?
Individuals, they stay out of each other's contracts and the way they approach something. And to prove that point, Adams, who went from the Raiders to the Jets, right? He wouldn't play for the Raiders for the last 3 games, said his hamstring was hurt. As soon as they made the trade, he was back on the field. So people stay out of people's contracts.
I'm not really talking about the contract, though. I mean, and I guess in my view, it's kind of sending a message to the rest of the team is that we're not doing anything this year. Normally in the NFL, that doesn't happen. I see that in basketball all the time where they.
And
I'll tell you, he quit on the Raiders.
No, I'm talking about in this case, though, the team seems like with 7 games left, I see them doing it toward the end of the year a lot of times. But the team is like with a lot of games left, all of a sudden, and they didn't even go to their second string quarterback. They went to like their third string quarterback for some reason.
I think my experience, here's what I've seen. I've seen players voice the fact that they want the player in a position that's going to give them the best chance to win.
That's what I'm getting at.
And I think that the majority of those players don't believe Daniel Jones gave them the best chance to win because he had become a turnover machine and he no longer had confidence in himself anymore. He'll catch on somewhere else, but I think those guys are saying, not to Chuck's point, they're saying good riddance. Like, you got to go. You can't win here. And you're not the best quarterback for us. So I don't think that they are missing him, but it disrupts the locker room. It does. When your lead quarterback not only gets benched, gets waived, that disrupts the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, Larry, I hear what you're saying, that this is a message that the locker room was kind of saying, well, we're all mercenaries now because we're getting rid of a guy who on paper might be our best quarterback, but you have to recognize that when he started, they didn't win. They weren't good. And the players know that. Like, they know if you're not winning and producing, it doesn't matter, you're not going to be in that role long. And so I think, yeah, it doesn't smell right, but they also know it wasn't working anyway. So you can't really cry too hard.
Yeah, I think I don't think they got rid of him because he wasn't producing. I think they got rid of him because
look, he was going to get benched because he wasn't producing, and he got cut because of his contract. So they're kind of the variations on the same idea. He wasn't playing well. The team wasn't playing well. They weren't winning games. If they are 9-3 instead of 3-9, he'd still have his job.
Yeah, I heard a couple of their players come on. I'm not sure if it's the same cornerback you're talking about, but they let one of their cornerbacks go for money reasons.
Yeah, Xavier McKinney. Yeah, for sure.
And I've heard a couple of players saying, "Okay, what are we doing here?"
Right. No,
this guy's
like up this week. Yeah.
Yeah, is playing very well.
Right.
Okay. Top 5 NFL teams. Chuck, we'll start with you.
Detroit, Philly, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City. Detroit, Philly, Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City.
Not a bad pick. Greg, your top 5.
All right. I got Kansas City, the Lions, the Bills, Eagles, and the Steelers.
Interesting. Andrew, your top 5.
Yeah, I got Detroit, Philly, Baltimore, and then I've got Kansas City, and then the Bills. Or Kansas City and the Bills, right? Yeah.
Does anybody think that Minnesota? None of you mentioned
honorable mention. 9 and 2.
Honorable mention.
They're not elite.
I don't think they've been tested.
We've seen this movie before too, right? Was it 2 years ago they had that great record? And
I give him a lot of credit. I give
coach
O'Connell enormous amounts of credit, and I give even Sam Darnold credit. And they lost 2 in a row, and they come back and won 2 more in a row. But they're not a great team. I think Flores is a great defensive coordinator. He is. I'm not sure he's. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Did he drop that lawsuit? By the way,
I don't think it's dropped.
No.
I think it's.
No.
No, I think it's still engaged. But I read a lot. I've done a lot of research on him as a head coach, and he's not a good time in the sense like, you got to communicate with a lot of different parts of the organization, and he didn't do that very well.
He's a good coordinator, so that's okay.
It's like North Turner. North Turner should never been a head coach.
Exactly.
For the many times he was a head coach, he was a great offensive coordinator.
Buddy Ryan back in the day.
There's nothing wrong with being the NFL's best defensive coordinator, and he's great at it. But I don't think he's supposed to be a head coach. I'm not sure he wants to be a head coach.
Okay, now we're gonna move to the fun section, the college football rankings.
Oh my God!
Here we go. Last week on this show, we all thought if Indiana played Ohio State, I'm pretty sure we had consensus they needed to play Ohio State, either beat Ohio State or give them a real close contest to stay in the playoffs. That didn't happen, but lo and behold, they're still there because of the upsets there. So I'm going to start off. How many Big 10 teams will ultimately get to the 12-team playoffs? Chuck, we'll start with you.
4 of them: Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana.
What do you think, Dave? Andrew?
I'll go with 4, the same 4.
Greg?
Honestly, God's honest truth, I had the exact same 4. Exact same 4.
It's not that. Yeah, that wasn't.
I think they're pretty safely in, really.
Yeah.
You know what? It's interesting because there's a lot of press about Alabama getting in. I can't see them getting in.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
How many teams from the ACC will get in?
It's a good question.
Chuck, how many?
Say 3. Yes, Clemson, Miami, and Clemson and SMU.
SMU, yeah.
Yeah, I think Miami and SMU are looking very good. Clemson, like today, they would be out, but they're barely out. They're the first team out.
They play South Carolina this weekend. If they can beat South Carolina pretty good, because South Carolina is coming on.
Yeah, South Carolina's a pretty highly ranked team. I mean, they're 15 or so. That's no gimme.
They got to beat them. You're right, Andrew. If they don't beat them, they won't get in. But if they beat them, I think they're going to get in too.
We'll see.
Now,
we'll see.
Keep in mind, only 2 of them currently are in the top 12.
Right. I mean, I did a little research. I don't know if you guys know how this works, but
they're 13th, aren't they? Isn't Clemson 13th?
Clemson is number 12.
Clemson, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about. Okay, yeah.
But I did research on how the playoff is decided. Like, there are 9 conferences that are part of like FBS football, like part of this thing.
Yeah.
5 of those conferences, their winner gets automatic bids.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like Arizona State is the conference winner.
Yeah.
They're not in the top 12, right?
Right.
They're going to get an automatic bid. And the four highest ranked conference winners, in this case, Boise State, which is the Mountain West Conference.
Yep.
They're not in the top 4 at all. They're like number 11 or 12, but they get a first round bye. So it's not as simple as just looking at the top 12.
No.
There's going to be some teams outside of that get in. And so it's going to be tricky. It's going to be close. I think the conference championships are going to have a lot to say about who goes in the very end, but it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be those 2 plus 1 from the ACC, 1 from the Big Ten, and 1 from the SEC.
Yeah.
So that's going to leave 7 slots. Okay. So far we got at least 2 from the ACC and 3 from the Big Ten. That means when I say that, it's because we're going to take the champions out of there. You said 4.
No,
so that means 3 at-large bids. The 7 at-large bids left.
Okay.
That means so far, based on you guys' answers, it's going to be 2 from the ACC.
Don't lump my answers with Snowden's answers. That's not fair.
Okay.
How many do you think? Because the ACC is getting 2 teams in total. Period. That's it.
Okay.
No chances. No chance. No.
Okay. So Chuck is saying 3. So Chuck, that's only going to leave the 3 total coming from other places, and you think they'll be from the SEC?
The SEC will get 3. Notre Dame will be 1. Boise
Wait a
will get
minute,
in.
that's too many teams then for you.
See, we're talking 3. He's already
Seven at-large bids, okay? So based on your statement, Chuck, 2 will be from the ACC because their champions getting in. 3 will be from the Big Ten because their champions getting in. So that's 5 at-large bids right there. Notre Dame should get one of them.
Oh, they will for sure.
So that would only leave room for
I
2
see what
SEC
you're
teams.
saying.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting about the Big 12. I didn't have a Big 12 representative.
Yeah, Arizona State, who's only ranked 16, you see,
Right.
but they are an automatic inclusion because they are the 5th highest ranked conference winner.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
So Andrew, how many AC? You said 2 ACC teams, period.
Total, and three SEC teams total. Okay, I think there will be 4 Big Ten teams total, and Notre Dame, and then
Boise and Arizona State Conference.
Yeah.
What do you think, Greg?
So I say 2 from the ACC. SMU will likely win that, and Miami is the next highest ranked. Clemson is on the bubble anyway, so I don't see them making it. SEC. So here's what worries me about the SEC. Tennessee could make it, but they got to play Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt not only beat Georgia, they only lost to Texas by 3.
Terrible school. That is a terrible school.
I know their story very well.
They stink.
And I'm telling you, Tennessee is ripe for upset, ripe for getting beat by Vanderbilt. They were right, and so I'm not so sure Tennessee will make it, but I'm pretty confident about Texas and actually and Texas and Georgia. I think Georgia. Yeah, I'm pretty confident about that.
Yeah,
I was teasing Andrew. Andrew's a Vanderbilt graduate.
Oh, I surmised.
Okay.
but yeah, they're having a great year, but the story is fraught with painful feelings.
They beat Alabama and they beat Auburn.
Yeah, and barely lost to Texas. Barely lost to Texas.
They're a good team.
Yeah. So.
Any chance Alabama get in there?
No.
But
Done.
there's a chance, but not a good chance. There's a feasible theoretical chance, but some crazy things would have to happen.
I mean, they're ranked 13.
I know,
Oh,
but
they're
they're not
upset.
playing in a championship game, okay? And they've got the 3 losses in conference, whatever. And I just think it's highly unlikely. But if some of these other teams mess something up, like who knows?
Yeah, I mean, as many upsets as they had last week.
Last week was crazy. Last week
You're
was
right there,
insane.
number 13. How do you feel about a 3-loss team from the SEC getting into the championship? And I say this is because I think if Texas doesn't win if Texas wins the SEC championship, whoever they beat likely will have 3 losses.
Georgia, you mean?
Yeah, Georgia or Tennessee or whoever they win.
I think Georgia's playing the winner of Texas versus Texas A&M.
Okay.
And
I
Georgia's
feel
had a good year. And I think it's possible that a 3-loss SEC team will get in. But it does raise the question, if Georgia loses, then why would they get in over Alabama? I think Alabama beat Georgia this year, and that's when crazy stuff's going to start being talked about.
Well, wait a minute. If Clemson beats South Carolina and those other 2 teams that you're referring to have those 3 losses, why would either of those 2 teams get in over Clemson?
Yeah, that's possibly true as well.
Could be only 2 teams out of the SEC.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing. That would be hard to see from a just overall. But the SEC has not had a good year. It's not been one of their better years.
It's been a tough year.
Clemson's not. I mean, they're not having a okay. I mean, they can beat South Carolina. I wouldn't bet on them to beat South Carolina.
They're 9-2. They're 9-2, and they beat South Carolina. That gives them 10-2.
Dabo Swinney, great.
What do you think, Greg?
On
all of this mess.
So, first of all, I think there are going to be so many upsets that by the end of the weekend, brackets will be busted just like the basketball. Brackets will be busted. It's one and done. And so these kids are coming, these college students, they go crazy. They throw their lives on the line, their bodies on the line. It's going to be so much fun to watch. But I will tell you, I don't think the SEC is going to show very well in this. I don't think so. Other than Texas, I don't think the SEC is going to show very well.
So let me throw something out here. This is a trial year of how we're going to, carry this forward. The SEC has a lot of influence on things going forward. One of the proposals they made is that nobody gets automatic bids. How do you guys feel about that? Matter of fact, what they're talking about is the top 4 teams get the top 4, the top 5 teams or the top 4 teams get to buy, and you just take the top 12 teams. David, Andrew, how do you feel about that?
Let me jump in on that. I think rewarding excellence in conference play very much has a place. It still has a place in the basketball tournament. It has a place in all the major pro sports, whether it's the winning a division in Major League Baseball or being a division winner in football. And I think it would be a shame because the conferences mean so much less. I get it, than they used to, and they're shells of their former self, and there's so little heritage or tradition associated with these brand new super conferences. But I think you want to reward that regular season play and that excellence in the regular season. And SEC comes up with some stuff every once in a while would only serve their best interest. But I mean, I guess that's the commissioner's job, is to promote the league's best interest. But I think even as I watch a lot of these SEC shows, the SEC knows this is an off year for them. And so if they get just 2 or 3 teams in, I think they'll accept it like a champ, because they know long term they're going to get their share of teams in. But this is not the year to complain, because objectively speaking, it's not a great year.
Right.
Greg, you agree with that?
I do, to a point.
Okay.
I struggle with Arizona State because they won their conference, getting in over some of the other schools that are higher ranked that have played a tougher schedule, but it wasn't conference play, but they played a tougher schedule that may not get in. I really struggle with that. I mean, Arizona State, I've watched Arizona State. They are not one of the best teams in college football, and their conference is not one of the best conferences in college football. So, I wouldn't be at all upset with them if they took that away. If they took away the conference championship, I wouldn't be upset at all.
Chuck, does the SEC have an argument? Are they having a down year, or are they just like playing each other?
No, the answer is yes. When Georgia and Alabama are strong, we know they're strong. They're not like that this year. And all they do are playing each other, right?
So if they were to play, say, Indiana, how do you think?
I think Indiana would get them. I think Indiana would get them.
Can I quote you on that?
Hold on a minute. Hold on.
Can I write that down real quick? Is this being recorded by anybody?
Hold on. Vanderbilt beat Alabama and Auburn and played, who's the other team they played with? Texas, within 3 points.
And they beat Virginia Tech too.
And they beat Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt.
I would say
maybe they're not that bad this year.
Yeah.
Or maybe Indiana's better than you giving them credit for.
No, nobody's giving them credit. I'm asking, can Indiana beat them? I mean, that's really the big argument.
Is this Mike on? Yes.
That's what the SEC was saying last week. They thought they were. I don't know why they were just picking on them either, because I think Penn State hasn't really played any ranked teams. Only one ranked team, just like Indiana.
And by the way,
they got a bigger voice. They just want to, Paul Feinbaum and them guys, they just like to do that. They got a bigger voice. They think they dominate this thing.
It'll be interesting how it turns out next year, because we all know it's all about money, and the Big Ten and the SEC could decide not to participate, and that would hurt everybody's television dollars. I think they may have a valid point, though, about the automatic bids.
I think so.
You think so, Greg?
I think so. I really do.
That's interesting coming from you, Larry, because you're a big guy on you believe the game should be played on the field.
That's exactly right.
Not by the beauty contest. You don't believe in that beauty contest stuff.
Well, I mean, we got Arizona State getting an automatic bid when they I don't think they've earned it on the field. That's not change at all with me. I sort of think the best teams should do that. The problem is they don't play each other, so it's really kind of hard to tell.
So why are you penalizing them?
Yeah, I
Well-
think one other thing that they talk about a lot that doesn't get mentioned too much by everyone, teams that travel well. Some of these teams, their fans travel really well.
It does matter.
And if you got a school and a program that doesn't have a big following that's willing to jump on a plane and fly anywhere to watch them play, that's a problem. That's where the stuff that comes in play that's not on the field, but it does matter.
It's true. Notre Dame obviously travels well.
Really well.
Yeah.
Really well.
Penn
You know,
State as well.
I know it's not enough games, but what would be nice is if like the top 4 teams in each conference could somehow have some sort of playoff amongst themselves. I know they'll never go to that.
We
But
would,
that
still
way,
argue. We would still be arguing about that.
but
We
the
would.
cream will kind of, if
We
you're
would.
going to give people bids, the cream will kind of rise to the top then.
We opened it up to 12, and we're still arguing, right?
Right.
I never thought I'd see a day with 12. I'll take this and run.
Right.
Yeah, well, we still argue about 64. I mean,
Right. I mean, we're arguing about
We opened that to
64, it's like
68. You made it
68 or something, you know. And it's like, no, this is the 70th best team.
right. Right. Exactly.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time here. So we're going to
Been good,
briefly
though.
touch on the NBA, and I figured that one would raise a lot of back and forth. NBA, real quick, Cleveland. What is the secret to their success? Nobody can beat them except for the Celtics one time. What is the secret to their success, Greg? Any thoughts on that?
I think they play really well in the middle. I mean, I love how they play down low. And this is such a 3-point league. They're one of the few teams. They have 3-ball shooters, but they don't live and die by the 3-ball. I still think they're a little untested. I know their record doesn't say they're untested. The record says they're damn good, but I don't think that when it gets down to the second half of the season and really gets down to the wire, I just don't think they can get past the Celtics. I think the Celtics ultimately will win the East because they are actually getting better, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, they are actually better. And Joe Mazzulla is finally, I think he's hitting his stride. He's figuring out how to really coach in the NBA. I wasn't sure he was going to make it, but he's doing his thing, man. I don't see them getting past the Celtics. Cleveland's good, but not good enough to get past the Celtics.
Fact or fiction, Chuck? Are they fact or fiction,
No,
Cleveland?
they're legit. Cleveland's legit. But I'll tell you something. It helps the fact that they play in the East.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they'll get to play the Western teams too. Andrew, fact or fiction?
Yeah, I think they're really good for the second best team in the Eastern Conference. I agree with Greg. I mean, the Celtics and Missoula, I agree as well, has grown into the role. I had my doubts. We all had our doubts. Didn't look good that first year, but I give everyone over there a lot of credit, and they've got everyone locked in and signed for the foregoing future. And I give Kenny Atkinson a lot of credit for Cleveland. I think he's a very good head coach. And I think he's made a world of difference in that they've got the core team that's played together for a couple of years, and now he has them all singing from the same song sheet. So I think that's been the key difference for them. But I don't think they're better than the Celtics at all. Like that, I think if they played a 7-game series, it'd be over in 5, maybe 6. But I don't think it'd be that close. But I give them a lot of credit because they're still hitting closer to their max, which is something they hadn't done in recent years.
They've quietly gotten better and better every year. I was kind of surprised their coach got fired. I didn't, they lost to the Celtics last year, but they still seem like they've grown a little more and they're healthier this year than they've been in the past. And that ought to be interesting. Going back to football, Chuck, I got to throw something that Kung Fu sent up just for your benefit right here.
Indiana can beat anyone in the SC.
I did that for you, Chuck. Okay.
You don't have to do it for me. I'm a believer.
You already said, Chuck, Indiana can beat Georgia or Alabama this year. And I have it written down. I got to tattoo it on my arm in the last 30 seconds. It's going to be fun to bring that out.
Did Vanderbilt beat Alabama?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we didn't beat Georgia.
Well.
So, look, back to the NBA. How is Golden State doing it this year? They're in first place. What do you think, Chuck?
I have no idea. Seriously, Larry? Seriously. I have no idea how they're doing it. I don't. I don't know why they're as good as they are. I look at that roster, I don't see it. I really do not see it. Maybe it's the way they play. I don't know. And I think that over time, they're not going to be there. They're not going to be near the top.
And they are in the West and doing well there.
Doesn't make
What
sense.
do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's a theme that generally NFL teams are built around culture, and that is proven time and time to be the secret sauce. I think Golden State, I think culture is key. I think they got two tentpole players in Draymond Green and Curry, and I think they've gotten young talent to develop. They've got a coach who's preaching very clearly, and everyone's buying in. I don't think top to bottom NBA tends to be more about pure raw talent than any other sport. So even though Curry is obviously a Hall of Famer, Draymond might also be a Hall of Famer, as hard as that is to admit, because his raw talent isn't that great. But he can play, and he plays such an essential role. But anyway, I think they got the culture, and I think they got people fitting into roles, and Kerr's doing a great job. We'll see if it lasts, but I still think that they got a lot of what you need, and that'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Greg, how are you doing it?
So I think at some point, and maybe this is the point that the worm actually turns for Steve Kerr, that he's finally going to get some credit for being a really good coach, a really smart basketball coach. And he really, when I listen to him talk to the players during timeouts, he is his basketball IQ is off the charts. I mean, he's a really smart basketball coach, and he remains calm through everything. He's always calm. He rarely loses his head. Now, Draymond Green in the Hall of Fame, the NBA Hall of Fame is a little bit more.
We'll see. He's got a lot of rings.
I really think he can get there. But
remember, it's a basketball Hall of Fame, not an NBA. It's basketball.
Well, but even still, the Basketball Hall of Fame is a little bit more generous with their inductions than I think the NFL Hall of Fame is stingy. Baseball is stingy. The NBA is a little bit more inviting. But I do think that the Warriors are winning because Steve Kerr, they still have some really good talent, not great talent when you look around the rest of the Western Conference. Right. They have good talent. But Steve Kerr I think a lot of it is because of Steve Kerr and his coaching skills, his basketball IQ, and his overall culture that he's created.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget about Steph Curry's jump shot. That's a lot of it right there, too.
One of the best in the history of the game. Maybe the best.
Not one of the best. Right.
Yeah.
So who's going to come out of the West, Greg?
Right now, I would lean toward the Mavericks. The Mavericks are going to be hard to get past. But I got to tell you, my heart is with the Lakers. With this kid, Dalton Knecht.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton Knecht is the real deal. He is not a joke. He is not a facade. He is not a fly-by-night. He is for real. And so I would absolutely go with the Mavericks because I think they're the strongest team. I think Denver, the sun has set on them. I think they may be done. But as far as winning the conference,
You think the window's closed? Okay.
I think so. I think it has.
Who's coming out the West, Andrew?
The Oklahoma City Thunder, and I've been barking up their tree for years, and they have only every year they've gotten better, and they've got guys who play roles. I mean, Alex Caruso couldn't be a better fit just to come on and bring on pure heat defense. Lou Dort can shut anyone down. Chat Holmgren is injured for a couple months, but they'll get him back. But right now, they're still playing great basketball. They got depth. They're so well-rounded. They got 1 billion draft picks in the future. Doesn't matter this year, I guess. But I like the way they play. I believe in them, and I think they're the best team in the West.
Holmgren's made me eat all my words. He has. He's made me eat all my words. Everyone.
Chuck, who's coming out of the West?
For now, I'll say Oklahoma City. For now.
Who are you going to say later?
Yeah, might as well.
We'll see how.
We'll see how one foot on the canoe.
We'll see how things unfold.
Go ahead. You can say who you really want to say, Chuck. Go ahead.
The Lakers.
I knew it. I was like, how long is it going to take him to say that?
Just say
All right, twisting his arm.
Keep it real, man.
Okay, that's all we have for today. Let's go around for closing comments. And Chuck, do you have one?
Real quick. Mine is real quick. So the women's this weekend, the women's played, and the UCLA ladies in Pauley Pavilion knocked off the University of South Carolina. I thought that was pretty cool. Also, Notre Dame beat USC. So the ladies' game, we're gonna get back to that as the season goes on. But keep an eye on the ladies' game; it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I read where UCLA is ranked #1 now. So congrats to them.
Now because they beat USC or University of Southern Cal.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're led by Kiki Rice from UCLA, who is from Sidwell Friends, Washington D.C. Shout out, and that's Susan Rice's niece.
Okay.
Ambassador.
Greg, you have any closing comments?
No, I don't. Look, I just want to thank you all for offering up one more opportunity for me to get on and enjoy this evening with you all. I love coming on. I love the show. And thanks again for the invite.
We appreciate you coming. And Sharice, same to you. Back to you. Andrew.
Just one. Look, there's a coach who I admire in the NFL who I think is probably a genius and difficult and unlikable in ways, but Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. And San Francisco had their worst loss basically since he's been the head coach there. And San Francisco's in very dangerous territory of not making the playoffs this year. They might be able to pull it out. Who knows? But I'm going to watch them very carefully, and maybe it's good for them to have an off year and all that. They just haven't put it together this year. But for a great coach and someone who's been to the Super Bowl twice, I would love to see him pull it out. But I'm also thinking this, it maybe not work for him in San Francisco, and he might need a fresh start. But he's got such a future and been so influential. I admire him.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Special thanks to Greg and Andrew for joining us today, making this work out. You guys always do a good job. Kung Fu, happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And that's going to be it. We're going to sign off. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Everyone enjoy their turkey day.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks, Kung Fu.